but in the unity amidst our vast diversity. And language has to be a celebration, it be a checkpoint. We cannot weaponize language, because that's how we chip away at the very idea of what forms India, of our epicenter of our country. And we need to encourage language. Of course, we should speak. Now, I'll give you my example. I'm a Pahadi girl who's lived in, I'm not a native Mumbaikar, but I've lived in Bombay for more than 30 years, and I consider myself more Mumbaikar. Sir, I'm allowed to say Bombay because I'm now a native Mumbaikar. I can
no, you're not allowed to say Bombay.
Also
I think you should respect. Why don't you say Madras? Why don't you say Madras when you go to Chennai?
To you, my lord.
Why don't you say Madras?
Why
don't you say Calcutta when you go to Kolkata?
I consider myself a native
Mumbaikar. Yeah, because we allow you to do that.
Use the word Bombay without it being an insult
Mr.
to your
Chitre,
sensibility.
you should not indulge in this open bullying on my show. So, I will not allow that. You can't indulge in this kind of bullying. She will speak, if she wants to speak, she will say Bombay. She can say Bombay. Okay, let's have Meghna on the screen now, please. Mr. Chitre is indulging in some kind of... You can say if you want to say. There's nothing stopping you. Go ahead, Meghna.
Language is not a test of belonging. Humanity is. Please keep that in mind and keep your politics out of what makes us proud Mumbaikars. And you can go and ask a Mumbaikar, instead of focusing on these issues, why don't you focus on our civic infrastructure? Why don't you focus on the fact that the monsoons are here, and Mumbaikars, the average Mumbaikar doesn't have a chance to even live in some sort of dignity. I mean, all we have are options of being tossed off our local trains, and the alternative is to go on potholed roads and be stuck in traffic jams for 2 to 3 hours. Where's our women's safety? Where's our civic infrastructure? Where is affordable housing? Why don't you focus on that and give us, the average Mumbaikar, a better life, instead of being pedantic about issues that do not matter?
Absolutely.
Mumbai is a melting point. I am a Pahari. I'm not a native Mumbaikar, and I'm the proudest Mumbaikar that you will find, and I'm allowed to use the word Bombay or Mumbai because that's my freedom of speech. And it's not an insult to anybody.
Meghna, actually very well put.
Yes, thank
Bombay you. Is the melting pot.
But I'm a proud Mumbaikar.
And it's high time people who come from various political parties respect Mumbaikars and not force their political dogma on them. Dr. Wagmare, come in now. The concern here is of a Mumbaikar. Meghna is a Mumbaikar. She says that she'll say Bombay, and she is not interested in what's playing out by MNS workers, but she wants to ensure that the issues which are more important for Mumbaikars are addressed by your government. Why are you not addressing those issues? Monsoon is here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What Ms. Meghna was talking about, we are addressing those issues. We already started the programs and the infrastructure projects which was shut by the previous Mahavikas Agadi when the Mr. Uddhav Thackeray was the CM. All those projects has been started by our government, our that time Chief Minister Mr. Eknath Shinde and today's Deputy CM. He started all the project which was stop and halt by Mr. Uddhav Thackeray. So those project has been started, Atal Setu, Coastal Road, Metro, all the things we started, it has been completed. We are doing concretization for the Mumbai roads. We are bringing people from Mumbai, the Marathi people who
then
last 2020...
you are certainly projecting a very, very progressive idea. But why are you not able... No. But then why are you not able to contain this kind of hooliganism which is being done by the MNS workers and UBT workers?
This is, I can say very clearly, these MNS and the UBT workers started this hooliganism because the election is coming on a corner and our government decided not to tolerate this kind of things, no matter whatever the reason is. We are not going to tolerate the violence in Maharashtra because the people businesses who are coming to Maharashtra, who are setting up the businesses in Maharashtra.
Just enough time for Rita Gupta, please. Rita Gupta, 30 seconds, quickly.
Whatever Mr. Wagmare said, I am really feeling like laughing what he's saying about the infrastructure and everything. I'm very happy what Meghna gave the ideas. Meghna, let me tell you one thing. Whatever views you had, that was very nice. But ever since you have just kept in mind ki why all these things happen. This was a small issue which happened in Thana and Meera Bhayandar. But before that also, how the things are taken aside. Where is the Mumbai, whatever the work has to be done, whatever the, things have to happen in Maharashtra, there nobody's looking into it. Only this one little thing, and that they have made it in such a huge thing ki, oh, the MNS workers are goon, the Ubada people are goon. It is not the thing. It is the government who is now ruling. They are conducting all the things.
High time Raj Thackeray takes action against his own party workers. That's
of course
what is
he will
expected.
Take. Of course he
Rita
will
Gupta,
take.
Meghna Pant, Akhil Chitre and Dr. Raju Wagmere, really appreciate your time. Shifting focus to another story now. A powerful global fashion brand is in the dock. And this time, it's not about style, but stolen identity. A PIL has been filed against Prada, yes, the luxury label, for using the iconic Kolhapuri chappals in their collection without giving credit to the artisans, without acknowledging the heritage, and without honoring the geographical indication tag, which is the GI tag that Kolhapuri chappals proudly hold. The petition by Ganesh Hingmire points to a deeper issue: cultural appropriation without accountability. Mr. Ganesh Hingmire, who is an intellectual property advocate, while Prada accepted that its collection is inspired by Indians, the acknowledgement only came in after facing widespread backlash. The petition says, and I quote, "The Kolhapuri chappal is the cultural symbol of Maharashtra and has special public sentiments attached to it. The brand has privately accepted that its collection is inspired by Indian artisans. However, this acknowledgement surfaced only after facing widespread backlash on various social media platforms. This acknowledgement was given to the private entity and not to the applicant makers of Kolhapuri chappals, GI, registry government, or the public at large." It goes on to say that the brand has not yet issued any formal apology along with damages, compensation, and an entitled remedy, and the statement appears to be merely a superficial attempt to deflect criticism. The petitioner has also criticized global fashion brands for copying traditional Indian designs like brocade, block printing, bandhani, sharara, and sari. This comes as Dior is also under fire for showcasing an intricately crafted coat at the luxury label in Paris on June 27th. The coat stood out because of its use of Mukesh work, a metal strand embroidery technique from Lucknow. However, the Indian artisans were not given their due credit, triggering a backlash. India's artisans, ladies and gentlemen, whoever inherited the legacy of Kolhapuri craft for generations, are now watching it walk the global runway. However, they have been stripped of their name, their history, and their dues. There has been public backlash, but no apology. There has been outrage, but no compensation. So the question that I ask on the show tonight: can global brands profit off our roots while pretending they don't exist? This is more than just a copyright battle. It's a fight for recognition, for respect, and for rightful credit. Because when heritage is hijacked, silence is not an option. Joining me on the show, Mayank Chaudhary is our stylist and fashion editor of NDTV. Ganesh Hingmire is petitioner and intellectual property advocate. Karun and Leon are designers and founders of Carleo. So welcome to this broadcast. Mr. Ganesh Hingmire, thank you for that PIL. It was needed, and thank you for taking this issue up so passionately. But are you hopeful for some kind of compensation for the Kolhapuri artisans?
I'm 100% hopeful that, because the first thing happened about, like, okay, they appreciated that it was particularly taken from the Indian heritage, and particularly most important, like, the anyone can easily judge that Kolhapuri chappal and then the views in the fashion show, very similar. We have covered the comparative analysis, how it is deceptively similar, and mainly such kind of a violation of the geographical indication. Let me tell you about the geographical indication first of all. And geographical indication is an intellectual property right. That's community's intellectual property right, and that particularly the Kolhapuri chappal already received the geographical indication. There is a law in India called Geographical Indication Protection and Registration Act 1999. And as per this act, only community which is involved in that particular production is entitled. And if someone without their permission use or deceptively similar made any kind of product, so then there is a violation and there is a provision to take an action against the infringer. So geographical indication is a community's intellectual property right, and here in particularly Kolhapuri chappal, clearly violation is there. Along with that, there is again violation of fundamental rights.
Okay, but I want to understand from you, Mr. Ingmire, because this is a GI infringement case. Does it lead to any kind of, compensation?
Yes.
You would have filed similar cases in the past. And how is this case different from an intellectual property case?
See, this is also an intellectual property right. See, there are different types of intellectual property right. Patent is an individual's intellectual property right. Trademark, visual symbol, like a Tata, Mahindra, etc. That is a different intellectual property right. Copyright, you mentioned about the copyright. That is for literary and artistic work. But for geographical indication, there are three kinds of goods which are entitled for the GI registration. Number one is an agricultural good. The best example is Darjeeling tea. Number two is a manufacturing good. The best example is a go of any. Either of the activity need to be carried in that vicinity or that particular area. And number three is the third kind of a category of goods which can get the registration is a natural goods. The best example is a Makarana marble. So community when creates something unique, so that is where you can say that community is entitled to get the special kind of recognition, special kind of rights. That is a geographical indication rights. So that's a community's right. And we enacted our law because of the World Trade Organization. So there is a nexus. You will find an international nexus with the GI Act. So hence, the GI is particularly an intellectual property right, but this is community's intellectual property right attached or attributed to particular place. And this community, see, they have the skill, generation to generation, they continue with their skill, where their creation.
Okay.
And then they are entitled to enjoy special kind of benefits for their, heritage and cultures.
Okay. Karan and Leon, this is a question addressed to both of you. What gives these brands like Dior, Prada, that confidence that they can get away with this kind of open, brazen stealing of ideas and not even giving, the artisans credit? Is it because they're too big a brand?
I think it's, you're right. They're too big a brand and they think that they have the leverage over everybody else. They also knew that the consumer market has increased massively in consuming all of these international products and goods, which is where a product like, Kolhapuri chappal, which is originating from India, inspired from India, crafted by the artisans in India, is, easily kind of taken and replicated in their form, in their way, without even giving the acknowledgement to the country. So I think they just take everything for granted that, they belong to the West, they have the right, and they can do anything that they want. But I think this movement is important to put a stop to all of these things, because, somebody has to take a stand, right? Yes. And this is, for me, it is obviously a blatant, kind of a copy of the Kolhapuri, a replication of the Kolhapuri. And even if you want to kind of get inspired, like we all get inspired from different things. As
Yes.
artists, as designers, we do get inspired by different things. But give the due credit and the recognition from where you've gotten inspired from, and not later on when it becomes like a viral news.
Leon, your thoughts?
So I've been thinking about it too, and actually I felt there are many layers to this conversation. It's not as simple as black and white.
Absolutely.
A lot of designers in India are also manufacturers to these brands. Okay. So in the sense, when these brands come up with a product, they also in turn give a lot of business to countries like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, because when a product does well, the orders go to these factories in these countries to manufacture for them. So that is about the compensation angle. Now, coming to recognition, it's unfair to say that Dior has not given recognition. In fact, Dior is one of the brands who, if people follow it, like people over here want to follow it, you can go to their Instagram and their website. They recognize Indian craftsmen. They support all their business through an Indian design house, very much in Mumbai, called Chanakya. And it's immense amount of business and recognition being given for their to the craftsmen, and also remuneration. Like ultimately fashion is a business, and if these artisans are just given recognition and not compensation, it doesn't help them. A lot of our workers who work for Indian designers in fact do not want to work for them and want to work for these international brands because they are better paid by them.
Mayank, you have been part of this entire discussion ever since this entire controversy broke out. There is this view that cultural appropriation should also mean, there has to be some kind of accountability here. And Prada seems to be getting away with accountability.
First of all, I think how Sir has mentioned in his PIL that they have acknowledged, not apologized. So that is established. Also, we have to now look at it because, as you said, we have been talking about it for quite some time, that we don't want to become the boy who cried wolf. Two things. Are we not promoting Indian crafts and artisans at a global level enough so that a brand like Prada, which is globally dominating the market, fashion market, is not aware of Prada Kolhapuri chappals? Are they not doing the homework? Or are we somewhere lacking in not promoting our artisans and craft too much? So that is something that we have to work on. As the designers have said, fashion is a melting pot of cultures, creativity. Designers
no, but
often...
why not give credit to artisans is the point here. Why is Prada stopping at just acknowledgement, not realizing that this is something that Kolhapur and Kolhapuri artisans have protected it, have built it for decades?
Right. So I think we have to again look back. Are we protecting and promoting our artisans at that level? We have to question it, right?
Yes.
Can a brand like Prada, tomorrow somebody else will come, maybe copy a sari pleating and say, oh, this is our Gucci sari, and walk away with it, Are we protecting our artisans, our culture and our craft that strongly enough? So that is a very, it's a thing to question and think about.
Yes. Mr. Hingmire, since you have filed similar cases in the past as well, what is the right compensation here?
See, basically, there is a provision in the GI Act called Section 22. And that Section 22 to 28 clearly defined. And actually, this is a community's right and violation of the community rights. There should not be an upper limit. That happened, but Darjeeling took 16 cases there in abroad for the violation of their intellectual property right. Darjeeling also received the geographical indication. However, an enforcement, because community can't afford the litigation part, and in such cases that upper limit, it has to be defined, and court may go to some extent that to support the artisans, and only the section 22 mentioned about the damages, compensation, recognitions, and should not be any violation, and that's what GI Act is all talking about. But let's talk about the statutory right. That's a fundamental rights, violation of the fundamental right, which is there as per the Indian Constitution is concerned, Article 21, which includes right to life, right to livelihood. Further, cultural identity is also covered in the Article 21. So the PIL is also talking about that Article 21. Then further we talked about the PIL is also talked about the Article 29, also talked about the fundamental duty. This is quoting in the Article 51, so that protecting the Indian
consumer. Are these global brands really driven by, I mean, because of course the GI tag will be applicable within the country. If these fashion shows are happening in Paris or in other parts of the world, can they really get away with it? Because
Good question. I really appreciate this question. I'm really happy for the first time such kind of question. See, first of all, let me tell you how we enacted the Geographical Indication Act in India. I mentioned in the beginning that we enacted GI Act particularly through WTO's TRIPS agreement. WTO, we all know, World Trade Organization, and TRIPS agreement is a trade-related aspect of intellectual property right. There are 3 articles you will find in the TRIPS agreement: Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3. So we enacted this law through an international arrangement. So there is an applicability. You will find previously the Scotch whiskey fought the case in India, and they have stopped the Indian to start or run the Scotch, sell the Scotch whiskey. So there is an enforcement mechanism which we can adopt, and probably that should be done. I mentioned before also about the Darjeeling. Darjeeling fought many cases. No one can use Darjeeling fought the cases in abroad. But if something is happened at international platform, and since we are a member of WTO, since we are a signatory to the TRIPS agreement, we have certain remedies, and then we can take it to the...
perhaps, what is becoming clear is that it's going to be a long legal battle. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. And Prada, Dior can very well get away with it. One may say then, Leon, that they would be graceful if they accept and give credit. But given how complicated this entire intellectual property legal system is, they can very well get away with it.
No, they cannot. Indian legal system is strong enough. Indian constitutional law is absolutely enforceable, and court of law particularly giving a special attention for the India's intellectual creation. And when it comes to the tradition,
but where are these cases fought? Where will this case be fought?
We have,
International Court of Justice.
There is a separate commercial court established right now in India, and there are fastest possible remedies available. And then that's what had happened in
Yes,
India.
fine.
And that's happened.
Leon, I have just 30 seconds for you, and then I'll give the last word to my friend here, Mayank. There is clearly an attempt to hijack our heritage, hijack what has been carefully preserved by our artisans. And global brands have this great degree of arrogance, or should I say elitism, because of how big they are.
No, I'm honestly very glad to be on this show, to be hearing both sides of the story. In fact, I'm very happy as a designer that there is a code that protects the designs to that extent. From what I've understood is that if you sue somebody for copying a design, firstly, you have to prove that that design belongs to you. Secondly, you have to prove that the design copied is exactly copied to the T. So after hearing so much, I feel maybe it's a great idea. It's, of course, recognition has to happen, and I hope it works out.
Yes. Mayank, one may say that Prada should do its part, but it has also ensured that Kolhapur and Kolhapuri chappals get the right kind of eyeballs. that everybody will go and buy a new pair of Kolhapuri chappals.
Absolutely. I think Prada, by mistake or intentionally, has done a brilliant thing for our culture. And you know, as Indians, as you've mentioned, whether be it brocade, bandhni, chicken curry, anything, it makes us feel very proud.
Yes.
Because if we take all of that away, Western fashion will have nothing but corsets and black suits.
That's actually very well put. Yeah. I love those chicken curries in particular, and those brocade. They are absolutely, outstanding, particularly those embellishments with which they come. Thank you so much for joining us, Karan, Leon, Ganesh, Mire, and Mayank here in the studio. A quick break, and then we return with something which is happening right here, just 100 kilometers from Delhi.
आपको हक कि किसी और नागरिक पर हाथ उठाने का? रेशमा जी, आप कानून है क्या मुंबई के, महाराष्ट्र के?
स्वभाषा का अभिमान होना चाहिए, मातृभाषा का अभिमान होना चाहिए, पर उसको आगे करके अगर कोई गुंडागर्दी करेगा तो सहन नहीं किया जाएगा।
Why is MNS so desperate?
आपके सभी कार्यकर्ता ऐसे मारते हैं लोग।
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
Finessa Windows, beautiful and durable designs. इंस्टॉलेशन से मेंटेनेंस की लाइफ लॉन्ग कस्टमर सर्विस। आपके घर में फिनेस्टा नहीं है तो कॉल कीजिए।
Fine Finer Finesta.
But I'd like to start this off by asking you, Vishnu, what you think about the whole question of India not having stealth fighters right now.
It's a huge
Everyone's
problem.
trying to sell them to us as well.
It's a huge problem, Shiv. Let's face it, in as much as we love the Rafale aircraft and the Indian Air Force is completely vouching for it, perhaps they'd like more than 100 more. The Indian Navy has just gotten into an order for 26 Rafale M aircraft. There is a generation gap between the Rafale and the stealth. There is a good reason why a stealth platform is called a 5th generation aircraft and a Rafale is a 4th or 4.5 generation aircraft, and that is low observability. So in as much as the Rafale has brilliant sensors, both in terms of its radar, its defensive suite, its electronic warfare suite, its total.
Welcome back. The Kanwar Yatra is a sacred tradition, a journey of devotion, penance, and spiritual discipline. Lakhs of devotees walk for miles, chanting the name of Lord Shiva, carrying the holy Ganga Jal on their shoulders. It is faith in motion. But tonight, there is another side, troubling side, that must be questioned. Why is it that every year, along with the Kanwar Yatra, we also see the rise of Vigilantism? Why are fringe elements in the name of religion threatening shops along the way? Gave them the to act parallel policing units. Is this devotion or domination? Is this bhakti or fear being weaponized? Let's be clear, no faith justifies lawlessness, and no democracy should bend before mob rule dressed as religiosity. The Kavadi Yatra is sacred, but it must remain so, free from fear, free from force, and free from the politics of intimidation. My colleague Ankit Tyagi spent the day today in Muzaffarnagar in western Uttar Pradesh, talking to dhaba owners who fear for their business and also confronting the vigilantes who remain brazen. Watch this report.
A controversy in Uttar Pradesh ahead of the Kanwar Yatra. Hindu groups conducting checks at dhabas to see if they employ Muslim workers. In one such raid, a Muslim man named Tajamul was found working under assumed identity of Gopal at a roadside dhaba to protect himself from Hindu groups. The incident took place at the Pandit Ji Vaishno Dhaba located at National Highway 58 in Muzaffarnagar. The dhaba has since been shut after the protests. Tajamul told NDTV he adopted a Hindu identity out of fear under instructions of the dhaba manager.
जी क्या नाम आपका? तजम्मुल. तजम्मुल. उस समय गोपाल क्यों बताता अपना नाम? उन्होंने रखो डर के मारो. डर के मारो.
This dhaba actually, NDTV's Ankit Tyagi went to Muzaffarnagar to find the real picture. The Kanwar season is back in Muzaffarnagar, and with that is also the controversy once again in this district, which has seen a lot of tensions in the past between the communities living here. Now, the latest round of escalation or tension started with some self-proclaimed investigators who came to various roadside eateries or dhabas, as they are known as, to try and check who are the owners, who are the people, those who are serving it in the name of Shuddhata or purity for the people, for the Kavadi the Yatra, which is about to begin from 11th of this month. The dhaba has been shut for days now, and the manager asked, how can these groups come to do random checks at their installations?
कोई अगर बाहर का आता है, जैसे कि आपका जो फ्रूट वाले आ रहे हैं, ठीक है, जायज़ है, वो चेकिंग कर रहे हैं, या कोई एसओजी वाले आ रहे हैं, कोई गलत रेट नहीं ले रहे हैं, कोई वो कर रहे हैं, वो ठीक है, लेकिन आम आदमी को किसने अधिकार दे दिया कि आप जाके आईडी चेक करिए? मुसलमान हिंदू के पास काम कर रहे हैं, हिंदू मुसलमान के पास कर रहे हैं, ज्वाइंटेड होता है.
The owner of the dhaba, who lives in Meerut, in a phone conversation told NDTV she decided to shut shop and that cops have refused to act on her complaint.
अभी आपको किसी ने बोला ढाबा बंद करने के लिए या कुछ?
हाँ सर, ज्यादा परेशान कर रहे हैं लोग, तो फिर क्या करता है? वो जिसकी जमीन है उसने भी मना कर दिया कि भाई मेरा ढाबा अपना सामान उठाओ और खाली करके जाओ.
आपने इसके बारे में कोई पुलिस कंप्लेंट वगैरह की है क्या?
हाँ की है सर, पर एफआईआर हुई नहीं हमारी और उल्टी हमारे नाम हो गई एफआईआर.
NDTV confronted the head of the group that raided the dhaba. He remains brazen and unapologetic.
जानकारी लेना खान-पान के संबंध में प्रत्येक नागरिक का कर्तव्य होता है और आधार कार्ड इसलिए बनाए जाते हैं कि जिससे किसी की भी पहचान हो जाए. लेकिन वहाँ पंडित विष्णु ढाबा तो लिखा हुआ है, लेकिन उसके जो संचालक और कर्मचारी हैं वहाँ सनातन धर्म के लोग नहीं थे, तो फिर हम थोड़ा ही वहाँ देते. फिर हमने उन्हें एक चेक किया, भाई एक काम कर, इसको जो तैने पंडित ढाबा लिखा है इसको हटा दे, 24 घंटे का समय है, इस पर या तो अपना नाम लिख.
NDTV team also witnessed a live check at another dhaba by another Hindu group of Vigilantes. They asked the name of the dhaba owner and told him to remove eggs from the dhaba for the period of Kavadi Yatra. The Vigilantes, when confronted, maintained they would do as they please.
क्यों हमारा मुजफ्फरनगर ऐसा शहर है, यहाँ पे जब करोड़ों भोले भक्त गुजरते हैं तो उसमें हम लोगों का दायित्व बैठता है. यहाँ सुप्रीम कोर्ट या सरकार न्यायिक इतने में बहुत कुछ हो जाता है, क्योंकि जब यहाँ इतने करोड़ों भोले भक्त यहाँ से गुजरते हैं, उसमें अगर जरा सी भी कोई घटना घट गई तो प्रशासन को व्यवस्था बनाने में बड़ा समय लग जाएगा.
हम अपना काम कर रहे हैं, जब सरकार नहीं कर रही तो हम कर रहे हैं, हम अपने सनातन के लिए कर रहे हैं.
This is the gist, largely this is the gist, that we will do whatever we feel like, because we feel like that this is what our role is. This is where the administration needs to step in and see whether there are people, those who can enforce their will going across this road, or there should be people that it should be institutionalized by the government, because this is something which is an absolute violation.
Muzaffarnagar, Bureau Report, NDTV.
Shantanu Gupta is a political commentator. We have Ghanshyam Tiwari, national spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, also Sharad Trivedi, who is the spokesperson of the BJP. Sharad Trivedi ji, सरकार आपकी है, लॉ एंड ऑर्डर मेंटेन करना आपकी जिम्मेदारी है, कैसे होगा ये?
First of all, whatever I've heard on your channel, that is totally wrong. We do not accept it. The country does not accept it, and the police and the administration is going to take strict action against the people who have been doing it.
But it happens every year.
I want to read out a couple of lines of the order of the Uttarakhand government. Just 2 or 3 lines. In preparation for the upcoming Kanwar Yatra, the Uttarakhand government has ordered all the food vendors along the pilgrimage route to visibly display their license or registration certificates. The key word is all food vendors. No caste, no class, no community, no race, no religion.
So registration certificates, Mr. Trivedi, one moment. Registration certificates are issued in names. And that's an indication strong enough what it means.
Yes, of course. We agree with it, because when you say Shuddha Vaishnav Dhaba, that has got certain connotations. The food has to be prepared in a certain way. When we call kosher food, it has got special significance for the Jews. When we call soda bottle opener wala, you must have gone to the restaurant in Khan Market, that has a meaning that the food is being prepared in a certain way. When we say Shuddha Vaishnav Dhaba, that means the food is going to be prepared in a certain way. Not when Gulfam chaat, the Gupta chaat wala, and you come out with Gulfam chaat.
No. There is a problem. No.
Masquerading as
Mr. Trivedi, that's a wrong interpretation. You are actually saying that there are people who are lying, and that is the way they are promoting their business. That may not be a fair assumption here.
No. The report is that one Gulfam, when the matter was investigated, he was actually Gupta running Gupta Chaat Bhandar and checked on the QR code.
Shantanu, this certainly doesn't augur well, because it's happening year after year. Why are we seeing such sharp fault lines right on the surface?
I think we have to understand what Kanwar Yatra is. Kanwar Yatra is a very pious religious yatra where the Kanwar Yatri runs miles together barefoot, right? In that time, they want to eat certain kind of food. I'm sure you know in Hinduism, as Gita says in chapter 18, there is sattvic food, there is rajasic food, there is tamasic food, right? When, as Sharad ji said, when we can have a halal certificate where a meat has to be cut by a Muslim reading a kalma in certain direction, all of that is fine. Even a McDonald's Pizza Hut shows their halal certificate, right? So a Kanwar Yatri just saying, don't be an imposter. Agar aap Abdul Dhaba hain, to Abdul Dhaba likhiye. If you are a Shiv Dhaba, if you are a Vaishnav Dhaba, that means something. That is a connotation. Don't be an imposter, right? That's just put your direct identity. In fact, under Shops and Establishment Act, under GST Act, anyway you have to put proprietor's name. Just put the name. Why to hide your identity?
No, but Shantanu, I mean, this is not for the first time that Kavadi Yatra is happening, right? It's been happening for decades.
No.
For decades, the believers have been walking, and never before, except for the last few years, such deep fault lines are coming on the surface.
No. Then Maria, I'm saying you are a very senior journalist, nothing against your journalism, then you are very short-sighted. Just go to NDTV archives. Just before 2017, there are multiple fights among Kanwar Yatris and this, because those days there was not easy to identify. These days just by Paytm you can identify, because the Paytm is the name of the owner largely, right? There are multiple fights. Administration has to repin many times when these fights happen, because they want to eat a certain kind of food. कि भाई वो कहते हैं जिस करची में आप non-veg पका रहे हो उसमें नहीं पकाओ, एक certain तरह से मेरा खाना पकाओ. During this yatra, I'm doing a very pious yatra. I'm running miles together. And this is only with the food, not with other things. You know the kamar, the wood kamar that's made by a lot of Muslims of Jwalapur. Jwalapur is a major wood market. That's, people have no problem. People buy from them. But food that you intake, there is a certain sanctity to the food. There are a lot of nuance to the food, and as Sharaji said, different religions have their own nuances. कोई कहता है कलमा करके काटो, कोई कह रहा है ऐसे करके काटो. Just provide that right to Hindus also. Vigilantes, nobody will agree. But again, see, a lot of NGOs do a lot of things. These police can take action against them. But whoever is take, how it should happen, that can be decided. But it should happen that you don't make imposters कि मेरा नाम कुछ और है मैं लगाऊंगा शबनम बाग. See, this happens in UK also. Just give me half a more minute. I was in UK a couple of years back. I was doing my studies. You will say Delhi Dhaba, Delhi Darbar. देखा पाकिस्तानी चला रहा है. उसको पता है कि मैं अपने नाम से चला ही नहीं पाऊंगा. I don't have a rapport here. वो दिल्ली के नाम से चला रहा है. I think that's not done. भाई जो आप दिखा दो. अगर मेरा choice होगा, I still enter. If I still want, I still enter. It's my choice. Don't be imposter. Don't be hidden entity.
Good evening, Maria, to you, the viewers and fellow co-panelists. Taking a detour a little bit. There's a one man who's missing, and I want to appeal to your channel to help us find him. His name is Kiran Rijiju. He happens to be the Minority Affairs Minister of India. He's vanished. I don't know if he's in India, he's in this universe, he has a voice, he's lost his face and voice, whatever it is. It is a shame that the man can speak umpteen number of times but cannot stand up when his duty is called for. He must resign or he should stop warming the chair. This is not his birthright. Now, coming to the substantial part of the debate. With logic of Sharad Trivedi and Shantanu, all the Chinese food restaurants should only have Chinese running them, or people who can claim that they are Chinese. All the Punjabi food restaurants should only have Punjabi is running them. This bizarre logic can only happen because in the backdrop, you have a chief minister who believes in batenge katenge. You have a prime minister who on event days believes in batenge katenge, on odd days believes in sabka saath sabka vikas. A prime minister who can identify people with their clothes. A party that for 11 years have been talking about isko Pakistan bhej do, usko Pakistan bhej do. But when the real time came to fight Pakistan, they were cowed down by a whisper of Donald Trump. So in the face of this party is poisoning everybody by these ways, which will only defeat the poor. It will not defeat the Adanis. It will not defeat the Ambanis. It will not defeat the richest. It will defeat the poor who's providing livelihoods to various people. And how will you determine? Think about it. Today, when you are offering the fruits to the deity, what are you thinking? Are you praying the deity, or I think this fruit came from a Muslim's fruit basket or a Hindu's fruit basket? This food that I'm giving to deity, did it come from a Hindu's field or a Muslim's field? This is a model of untouchability that RSS has long believed in. This model was practiced against Dalits. It is still practiced in many parts of the country. This model has been practiced against Akhilesh Yadav ji. When Adityanath ji became the chief minister, he used Ganga Jal to wash off the chief minister's residence. When he went to a Dalit tola, shampoos were given. BJP believes in the model of untouchability. The only new chapter they are adding is now Muslims are added to it. So if you wear a cloth that is produced by Muslim, it can take away the satwicness of your life. If you get food, you don't know where the food came from. But just because there's a person who's a Muslim in that dhaba who's working, the satwicness of your pious effort is lost. By the way, all these people, Shantanu, Sharad Trivedi, all these people travel in flights. Never ever have they dared to ask in flight that क्या ये खाना सात्विक है? मैं एक बहुत important pious काम में जा रहा हूँ, मैं तिरुपति जा रहा हूँ, कहीं और जा रहा हूँ. In the flight, is this food sattvic?
Okay.
In the train, is this food sattvic? This is exactly a way to divide the country so that BJP benefits.
Okay, Sharad Trivedi, respond to that. Sharad Trivedi, respond to that.
I deeply appreciate the argument, my friend Mr. Tiwari. As per this argument, if the goat is being grown by a Hindu, by a Muslim, and if it is slaughtered by a Hindu, in the jhatka process, then there should be nothing wrong with it. What is the problem with Muslims eating in it? Because it has come from a Muslim farm, it has been bred by a Muslim, and it has just been slaughtered by a Hindu in whatever way he thought it right. And obviously, Samajwadi Party people walk wherever they go. It is only the BJP people who fly. Mr. Akhilesh Yadav walked to Australia to study. So this is a very, very down-to-earth party with only dealing with PDA people. Now, you come out with this kind of statement, fine. The goat will be coming from a Muslim farm and be slaughtered in a jhatka manner. Why should this is going to create a communal divide? Why should we allow it? After all, the Hindus, Muslims should be together, and we should have jhatka meat sold to the Muslims and the halal meat sold to the Hindus.
Mr. Trivedi, it's going in a direction which I certainly do not want this debate to go. So I'll wrap it up now.
I agree with
Sharad
you.
Trivedi, Shantanu Gupta, and Ghanshyam Tiwari, really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. The entire discussion on ndtv.com. That's all from me. Thanks so much for watching.
Finessa Windows, beautiful and durable designs. इंस्टॉलेशन से मेंटेनेंस की लाइफ लॉन्ग कस्टमर सर्विस. आपके घर में फिनेस्टा नहीं है तो कॉल कीजिए.
Fine, finer Finesta.
Some say sport is a matter of life and death. The truth is, it is far more serious than that. Sport is about ecstasy and agony, about pain and suffering, about joy and much more. Some say there's no one better to tell these stories. So here I am. Join me, Boria Majumdar, on India's #1 news network.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools, and lead with impact. Starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Pressure on the Indian Air Force to get fighters, forget about stealth aircraft. The Indian government has made it clear that we're going to bet on the AMCA, which is India's own fighter. But getting these 4.5 generation fighters like the Rafale, which you've already sunk an enormous amount of money into, even the Indian Navy has signed on for.
Good evening. Welcome to. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the just a couple of days left. Preliminary report of the 171. The Dreamliner comes out. One of the world's leading indicators at a time when it concerns that the compensation has been obtuse for those in the United Kingdom. There were more than 50 nationals who were killed in this. But what about General Electric, Boeing, the manufacturer of the aircraft, General Electric, the manufacturer of the engine? Is this an out-and-out issue, or is there a sense experts now that this could be a larger issue, one that could potentially impact the Dreamliner operation, not just with India, but possibly even around the world? It's approximately a week to go before the preliminary report of AI-171, the crash report, comes out. There's a great deal of concern among families about the entire compensation structure. Besides anything else, they really want to know about what went wrong. Approximately 260 people lost their lives when the Air India Boeing 787 Dreamliner crashed shortly after taking off from Ahmedabad on a flight to London Gatwick. There were more than 50 British nationals on board that aircraft. Representing some of them is James Haley Pratt, an aviation partner with Heathrow Law, London. Thanks very much, Mr. Haley Pratt, for being with us. On the entire issue of compensation, as I understand it, the Montreal Convention ultimately decides or will be the factor which specifies the compensation for each claimant. Is there anything to suggest that that is not being followed?
You're quite correct that claims against the airline will be covered by that international treaty, the Montreal Convention, and depending on the domicile of the passenger and ticketing, it could be India, it could be London, broadly. And that's very straightforward, and we've seen it happen lots of times before. I think I would reframe the word compensation, because I've been sitting down with a lot of British families this week.
You can't compensate for the loss of lives. I take that point. Is that what?
That's true, but I think actually financial justice is almost a better word than compensation, and that is not the top of their lists. A lot of the British families still have not got their loved ones back to them so that they can be properly buried and said goodbye to. That's the first thing. And the second thing, yes, they do know what. They want to know what happened, and they're very interested in this preliminary report. And they want to prevent future deaths. That's a really big thing that's come out from the meeting I had with these lovely British families. And of course, you have the financial justice side of it. And there are two potential claims. There is one absolute claim against India. For a lot of our families in the UK, that would be in the High Court in London. Also, our technical team has been looking into the known facts of this tragedy. We know that the ram air turbine was deployed. That only happens if something very serious has gone wrong just beforehand. We also know that both engines were not giving enough thrust. So another very serious problem. So we are looking very closely at Boeing's involvement in this, and we are advising our families that they have two claims. One against India, probably in the High Court in London, but also a claim against Boeing in federal court in Virginia in the United States.
claim against Air India. What Air India has been saying, in fact, they've come out with a statement today, is that they've denied reports that there has been deliberate inconvenience which has been placed upon the families in order to get the financial claims that they are making. They've denied reports that people are being forced to sign papers disclosing their financial dependency, etc., etc. They're saying that the questions which have been asked are basic questions which they require to help process financial compensation, right? Is there anything that suggests that they are wrong in saying that?
I must say, I have to agree with Air India on this. I was rather surprised. Good lawyers are supposed to solve problems, not create problems. And we've looked at the questionnaire. It asks simple statements of fact. And claims have to be made honestly. And ultimately, in a year or two, a judge, whether they're in India or London or the US, we look at the evidence of the loss of each family. So what is put down on a questionnaire a couple of weeks after the accident does not have that much bearing. I think it's a non-issue, it really is, and it's not what the families need. So we've been advising our families, but that questionnaire is standard operating procedure. Air India need to know who they can pay the advance compensation to. So I think it's a non-issue, and it's clickbait in many ways. And it's a shame that happens, because the families have other more pressing concerns.
No, I appreciate that point, because I was sort of going through some of the complaints and some of the points mentioned by litigators in the United Kingdom, and it seemed to me that at a time when these families have been so hurt, so affected, and remain affected, sort of push them into believing, or potentially pushing them into believing that they were not being properly compensated financially, that the system was obtuse, that they were being denied justice, that the insurance claim wasn't being processed the way it should be, sort of is not the fact, as I understand it. I mean, the Tatas, above any insurance, right, have come in with approximately £85,000, that is separate to everything else. Then, as I understand, there is an approximate figure of £155,000, which each family member who's lost somebody deceased could get. But that amount obviously is not a fixed amount, it depends on each case. And towards that claim, there is already a certain amount that Air India has disbursed. So therefore, just trying to understand, is there anything wrong that has happened thus far in this process?
In my view, and having spoken with a lot of British families, I can see nothing that has been done wrong by Air India or their insurers. I was in contact with the London lawyers for Air India and their insurers yesterday, and I made this very same point. I said, look, let's concentrate on helping the families, processing the payments, and this is a sideshow about the question. It's not what the families need. So we've been very straightforward, pass on the table approach. It's a non-issue.
Right.
There's no point driving it between families and Air India. And why we want to do that, I let your viewers draw their own conclusions.
No, I think there are a lot of people drawing that conclusion, and I'm glad that you said it directly. The last thing, and then I'll say it even more directly, the last thing that impacted families need are lawyers pushing them into a scenario where they feel that they're not getting what they are owed, and they're trying to get into a large legal case for their own financial gain. I mean, I would say directly, there is a sense at some levels that may be happening. Is that what you're saying as well?
I'll let you say that. I have to be slightly more diplomatic, of course. But my job as a lawyer is to make these complex processes as simple for these poor families. Most of them are still in disbelief. A lot of them are angry, and a lot of them are very sad. So what we do is, metaphorically, we hold their hands and families, but we'll lead you through the processes. If we see anything that has a red flag, we'll tell you. Our job is to try to reduce the drama. You've had enough drama and bereavement already.
Okay. Let's talk about the crash itself. You spoke about the ram turbine being deployed. That seems to indicate that shortly after the aircraft took off, the engines throttled back, or for whatever the reason was, there was no thrust available. Therefore, there are three players here to whom questions must be asked. Air India, potentially for maintenance, potentially for pilot error, potentially for a host of reasons. General Electric, the manufacturer of the engine itself, and of course both the manufacturer of the Dreamliner. Based on what you have seen in terms of the footage, what you have read, do you believe that there is a deal of suspicion, perhaps equally on all three at this stage?
I think the focus is primarily on Air India and Boeing. Boeing has had a checkered past over the last decade. We're all aware of the whistleblowing issues, the Boeing 737 Maxes, the deferred prosecution in the United States, $1 billion in fines. But more importantly, I think the consensus amongst the experts is the ram air turbine was deployed.
Yes.
Now, we don't know at what point. We are assuming it's probably just past the rotation. So you're past the point of no return. You then have the ram air turbine, the rat is deployed. There are 10 reasons for that if you've got the flight manual with the FCOM. But the primary 3 reasons are engine failure, or an electric failure, or a hydraulic failure. And that's bad news if you've just taken off. So the question then is, okay, what caused the rat to deploy? And I hope, and the families hope, that the preliminary report will actually provide some indication about what happened there. But that's only half the story, because then the other consensus view amongst the experts is that there was a loss of thrust. So what's the relationship between the deployment of the rat and the lack of thrust seconds later? And again, we're all hoping to find out from the preliminary report. But taking a step back, so you've got Boeing issues, but then of course you've got the potential Air India issues. And nobody should be quick to blame the pilots, actually, because I think pilots probably do the best job they could possibly do in very difficult circumstances. But there may be some questions surrounding the training.
Yes.
So we'll have to see. And just taking a step back on the legal process, claims against Air India under the Montreal Convention is presumed liability with no cap.
Right.
And it would be for Air India to provide evidence to show they were not negligent. And if they get to do that, then they limit their exposure to about $200,000 per passenger. But that has not been done, in my knowledge, in any court in a case like this, where the airline has not had 1% of fault or negligence.
So that's a really important point for our viewers to also understand. It's for Air India to prove the cap on liability, right?
Yes.
And there is no absolute cap.
No.
What is the logic in that? Because no matter what the company, nobody can afford, an insurance claim, whatever claim, beyond a certain limit or indefinitely. Why is there no cap? I mean, what is the logic in the law?
Whilst there is no cap, the claims have to be submitted on evidence, okay, under whichever local law. So it's not just unlimited amounts of money. You still have to prove your claim, whether that's under Indian law or English law or American law. And certainly most lawyers know that America is the most generous jurisdiction on the planet when it comes to providing financial justice for families. And the average awards there in air crashes are between $8 and $10 million per passenger.
Right.
It's a very different story in India. It's a very different story in England. But that sort of financial exposure is adequately covered by the $1.5 billion of insurance that Air India has, and at least the $2 billion, $3 billion policy that Boeing has.
Yeah.
So corporates are protected. And I think the idea is families should not have to prove a fault in a very technical tragedy when they've lost the most important things in their lives, which is why there's this reversion or the reverse of the kind of the burden of proof. It's not on the families, it's on the airline. And I think that's been the philosophical position since 1929.
You were talking about issues with the Dreamliner. The balance argument would, of course, be that there's never been a Dreamliner crash before this, a fatal Dreamliner crash. However, there has been at least one incident of an ANA aircraft after landing where the thrust on the engines rolled back in an unexpected manner. As I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, it had something to do with software configuration or possibly a software glitch. Is that something potentially that one needs to look at as well, a software issue which resulted in a sequence to the engines which was perhaps not correct?
Vishnu, it's a good point. We're well aware of the ANA incident. We haven't actually been able to find the final safety accident report on that. But of course, the aircraft had landed, there was weight on the wheels, the WOW switches were toggled, and then the TCMA, the thrust control management software, didn't operate as designed. That's only really supposed to happen if you're on the ground. And, goodness forbid if that had happened in the air. We just don't know. It's one of the possibilities out there.
The other possibility, of course, is improper flap configuration and the fact that the undercarriage, for whatever the reason was not retracted in a potentially single-engine scenario. But a story which we did, based on what, and this is outside the investigation obviously, is a couple of senior Air India commanders on the 787 a week after the crash went to their Dreamliner simulator and looked at improper flap configuration, the undercarriage deployed, and a single engine scenario in those weather conditions, the temperature, the gross weight, etc., etc. And the Dreamliner was still able to pull out and fly away. Now, that is an evidence. No one is suggesting that it is. I'm just making the point that there is a huge margin available for Dreamliner operations, which is why, again, everybody assuming, or so many assuming that, look, no, the pilots made a mess of things, may not necessarily be correct at all.
I think that's quite right. We don't personally think that one of the theories that the flaps were retracted rather than the gear was a probable cause. We just don't think that's credible. And in terms of taking off with the wrong configuration, well, that aircraft's going to give you plenty of warnings. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the flight crew operating manual, you're going to get alerts and alarms. Something really bad happened just after rotation, which caused the rat to deploy. We don't know what happened after that. We do know that the rat does not power the autothrottle. It's like the cruise control in your car. And if that autothrottle, which would have been managing the thrust for the takeoff and the climb, was depowered because there wasn't enough electricity and the rat certainly doesn't power it, then that could be a real problem. And then don't forget that when flight crew, even experienced flight crew, are faced with a surprise situation, there's always a startle effect. So there's a delay of 3 to 4 seconds, and that's only human. But that crew didn't have much time to do much. So we'll see. Hopefully the preliminary report will give us further facts, which we can then look at very carefully.
Are you disappointed in any way at the flow of information from the investigators, just public information? There's only been one major release, sort of identifying when the black boxes were brought to Delhi and the process of downloading data began. The NTSB is among the players who are involved in some way, shape or form. Or do you believe that preliminary information provided thus far is okay, given the fact that we've got just about another week until which time India is obligated to sort of reveal something?
Look, from my experience, having spoken with lots of families over the last 30 years in air crashes, they would always like more information sooner.
Sure.
But you have to balance that with the responsibilities of the air safety investigators. And again, something I've been telling our families is that there is always an undercurrent of geopolitics in these safety investigations, because obviously you have the Indian government and regulator and airline, and then you have the American manufacturer and their regulator, and then you've got the Brits, the AAIB, who don't really have a political position on this, of course, and they're very good with the black boxes. But there's always a tension, in my experience, in those safety investigations because of the consequences of it either A, being a Boeing safety problem, which may result in the grounding of the Dreamliner, or an Air India problem in relation to training or maintenance. So it's worth remembering, it's not as straightforward and simple as it looks on the cover.
And I think that really was my last question to you. We could potentially be looking at hundreds of Dreamliners around the world being grounded, at least temporarily, for spot checks at the very least. And if there's something more significant which is found, it could be, much bigger, which for Boeing would be disastrous. For airlines which rely on this thus far fairly reliable aircraft, it would be disastrous as well. And not least of all for Air India, which has more Dreamliners in its twin aisle fleet than any other type that it operates. So it's it's bad news in so many respects.
Quite. And I think the important thing is that, the black boxes don't lie. The black boxes will give us 90 to 95% of the truth, which is why we do hope and look forward to seeing some of their contents in a week's time.
All right. James Healy-Pratt, aviation partner at Keystone Law, London, thank you very much for speaking to us and, sharing your concerns, your thoughts. It is such a tragic occasion, and let's hope that there is justice for the families and that there is safety in aviation. Thank you very much indeed.
Vishnu, thank you for your time.
The Andhra Pradesh IT Minister Nara Lokesh has been singled out for praise by the Prime Minister on multiple occasions in the recent past, including at the International Yoga Day in Vizag, where the PM appreciated the enthusiasm and efficiency with which the young leader made it a great success at short notice, projecting brand yoga and brand Andhra Pradesh and brand India to the world. The 43-year-old Telugu Desam leader has told NDTV he's been deeply inspired by the PM and in fact has taken a leaf from the Prime Minister's playbook.
Thank you, Vishnu. In an exclusive chat with NDTV, Andhra Pradesh IT Minister Nara Lokesh said leaders need to be bold, and he was being bold in envisioning Visakhapatnam as a global hub not just for pharma, medical devices and for chemical industries, but also for IT, in which AP has been a late starter. On the water dispute with Telangana, he said Andhra Pradesh is not trying to steal anything from Telangana and they want to use every drop of water so that both the Telugu states prosper. On the controversial Red Book, he said whoever breaks the law is going to face the music. Let's listen in. Visakhapatnam also in that sense got showcased where you are bringing a lot of industry as well. CTS yesterday and 99 paise, that's something that comes in for debate.
I believe there's no debate there. If you look at it, leaders have to take bold decisions, and as the IT minister, I've taken a bold decision. I think this is what India needs. We need to take bold decisions to attract investments. And today, Andhra Pradesh is a late mover as far as IT is concerned because we have established bases like, Hyderabad, Bangalore, and Gurgaon. So we need to compete. If I have to compete, I have to use some strategic advantages. I'm using land as my advantage, and this is exactly the playbook given by the Honorable Prime Minister when he was the Honorable Chief Minister of Gujarat. He took Tata Motors at 1 rupee. So I got TCS at 1 rupee, I got Cognizant, 99 paise, I got Cognizant at 99 paise, and I'll get a lot more. And top 100 IT companies, my offer to you, please come to Visakhapatnam. I'll extend the same deal to the top 100 IT companies in the world. The same deal applies.
Wow, that is quite an invite that you're setting out for the world of IT. At a time when Andhra Pradesh otherwise is resource crunch is there, obviously, in your state, you're leveraging your equation with the centre well to be able to bring the resources. Because I have been speaking to people in Visakhapatnam and they are a wee bit disappointed that the capital is going away from here and you're starting almost a greenfield project once again. Obviously, you had built, in that period that Mr. Chandrababu Naidu was Chief Minister in the first phase.
People of Visakhapatnam are very clear. They said they want economic development and they're getting it. The new airport is under construction. You have TCS here. You have Cognizant here. India's largest steel plant is coming here. This is going to be the hub for the world for chemical and pharma manufacturing. We are already India's hub for medical devices manufacturing. And this is all in and around Visakhapatnam. People of Visakhapatnam gave a clear mandate that they don't want 3 capitals. YCP did not even win 1 seat in this area. It was a clear mandate that Amravati is our capital, but we want decentralized development. And we have done it, and we're going to do even more. That is why TCS came to Visakhapatnam, Cognizant came to Visakhapatnam, ArcelorMittal came to Visakhapatnam, and many more pharma companies, which have been clear in the previous cabinet and which will get cleared in this cabinet. All their investments are happening in Visakhapatnam.
Mr. Naidu also spoke about developing Rayalaseema, getting the Polavaram Bankacherla project, and that has run into trouble because Telangana is raising objections, saying that you're taking away our rights and there is no statistic. They claim that there is that much of surplus water. Then why have you put the NOCs for all the projects that are still ongoing Telangana's behalf?
No, if you look at it, there is water going to the sea. Why should we let so much water go to the sea? We need to harvest. There are going to be world wars on water. So it's very important to build projects so that every drop of water is saved, is used effectively. So what we are doing is the excess water that's flowing into the sea, We're harvesting it, taking it to the drier parts of the state. And I believe this is the way that every state should do. And when they build projects like Kaleshwara, we didn't create any issue. The projects are operational. Well, okay, they're in a different challenge altogether in terms of design, but that is what it is. We are not going to let water go to the sea. Any excess water, every drop we want to use it. We want to conserve it, we want to save it.
Are you going to try and de-escalate the situation? Because there is a build-up, political or otherwise, saying that there is tension between the two states, because that's traditionally water has been something that all states fight about, and the two Telugu states specifically. So.
No, it was always the case in the past because of politics. But Mr. Naidu has made it very clear. Two Telugu states, we have to prosper together. We were a combined state, now we are a bifurcated state. Let's work together. We are not here to steal anything from each other. I think together we can do a lot more. And that was the message that the Honorable Chief Minister gave in his press conference, and we all stand by it.
Your Red Book is always in discussion everywhere. People keep quoting the Red Book and saying we are also making a similar one. Is that something that you think political parties need to do? Because it seems to become a case of victimization when you come into power, especially for the bureaucrats or others who were involved with the previous regime.
Well, if they break the law, do you want me to keep quiet? If you look at it in Andhra Pradesh, the officers who have been placed under suspension are officers who broke the law. Then legal action has to be taken. Please tell me any case, then I'll tell you what kind of action has been taken and why that action has been taken. In my Red Book, and this was my promise to the people, I did close to 100 public meetings where I showed a book and I said that people who broke the law will face the music. Now let's take Visakhapatnam as an example. There was ganjai, huge ganjai in the past regime. Land grabbing, left, right, center, it happened in the past regime. If you look at it, buildings were torn down. Though they had all the permissions, they would come Saturday, tear down the buildings. It could be political leaders or it could be citizens who are not willing to sell land to them. Buildings were torn down. If you look at it, like assets were taken over. Kakinada port is a point in case. So if you put a gun, steal assets and take it off, you expect us to keep quiet as a state? As a Telugu Desam party, we believe in law and order. Look at our history since 82. We stood by it. So anyone who breaks the law will face the music. And that's exactly what I've said in every speech of mine, in every public meeting. And I truly stand by it today.
One final thing, Rapa Rapa has become a controversy now. But does that also reflect the level of debate here? Because attacks, in many senses, are quite personal in Andhra Pradesh. They are very sharp, they are very personal as well, whether it's on social media or leaders talking about each other.
I mean, if you look at it, we've never taken a shot below the belt. We've never dealt it like that. We've always been respectable about the Honorable former Chief Minister and Pulivendal MLA. We never ever did anything to defame him or his family. We would always speak about the issue. When our Karyakarta knowingly or unknowingly put a post against Jagan Mohan Reddy's wife, we took action. He went to judicial remand. He went to jail. Did Jagan Mohan Reddy ever take an action like that? When my mom was offended, when my wife was insulted, when I was personally insulted, his own MLAs, his own MPs, his own ministers used foul language against public representatives, against people. Did he take ever an action? And today the sad part is he's saying there's nothing wrong with a flexi. That means he's promoting violence.
Are you planning legal action on that? Will police register a case?
Already case has been registered. The people who have held those flexis are in police custody.
That man is not from your party?
He's absolutely not from my party. He's not.
The photographs that have been put out saying that he's a member of the Telugu Desam, is that right?
It's been morphed. It is nowhere, he has nothing to do with Telugu Desam party because Telugu Desam party Karyakartas are never like that. If Telugu Desam party Karyakartas are so violent, do you think Jagan Mohan